Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the private servers. We're on the Everlasting server. I'm on the supergroup Daybreak Initiative. We have over 19 million influence now, and influence won't be any sort of a problem for us going forward. Although one of my supergroup mates was talking about needing 800 million influence to complete his blaster build. I can't imagine needing that much, but as I said to them this morning, several of the people they're clearly playing this game on a whole different level from how I play it. The way I play it, we've defeated almost 10,000 villains with only a single defeat to level 35 at the hands of these villains. We've inflicted 2.7 million damage and taken only 575,000 in return, which means, and we were at one point doing 2 to 1, we are now doing 5 to 1. I do 5 damage for every 1 that I take. And we've completed 331 tasks and earned 692 merits. And unfortunately, it doesn't say how many story arcs we've completed, but we have completed a whole bunch. Look at this. So I'm going to chat about other stuff today as we go, but we're working on our story arc. And at this point, we have talked to Citadel, who's over here, and he's going to help us with the analysis. So now we're going to call, and again, this is about the Revenant Hero Project, and we call Gordon, and he says, wow, so Cray was working on a way to make tailor-made clones. I thought Dr. Vajalok had the market cornered on medical work that insane. This is huge. But I know that there's no way to get the information out and have it stick to Cray. This is going to require some further investigation because Cray is really good at getting out from under these. So the file that Citadel decrypted talks about using DNA to make upgradable clones, but what I want to know is where all the hyperlinks in the document go to. This is obviously only part of a larger project. We need to investigate the bigger picture. So now he says talk to Mark Freeman in Skyway City. So we're going to get back on the monorail, and we're going to go to Skyway. I don't know whether we need to be north or south, so we'll just take one and see what happens. So yeah, the conversation about them playing on a whole other level from me was precipitated by a couple of things. The first was one of my guildmates, and this is right here, so that's good. The first was one of my guildmates was talking about how he leveled his girlfriend, I don't know, from level like 46 to 50 in 20 minutes by having her sit in the door of a mission while he farmed, while he sort of farmed the mission for her, and then saying that he'd basically done the same thing from 41 to 45. And that's when I said, you guys are playing this game on a whole different plane from how I play it, because I've never leveled, other than like level 1 to 2, which takes 20 minutes in the tutorial, I've never leveled even a single time in 20 minutes. It takes me 20 minutes to run a single mission, and I can't imagine, but so then they said, well, we're just leveling and so forth. And I said, look, it's fine, if that's how you want to play, that's fine. I'm not criticizing anybody's way to play. It's just alien to me. I don't play the game that way. Anyway, so Gordon Stacy sent you. He says, he's a good guy. Let me run a trace. It'd take me a couple of minutes. Tell you what, why don't you run the CD to Jake Montoya? I told him I'd have it in his hands yesterday. So this is just running around. I'm not sure why they kind of put this in here, because it doesn't actually do anything unless you get ambushed. Now, if you get ambushed, it would be kind of cool. It's going to be very hard for them to ambush me because Super Jump is really fast. So anyway, we were talking about playing the game on these, in different ways and so forth, and it's fun for them to sort of min-max and figure out, how many, how much resistance their blaster can get. The one person said, oh, well, because I said, look, I don't, and as I've said this on this podcast, on this YouTube video stream, I come from the old school of City of Heroes, where the only thing you could do to improve your powers was to slot individual enhancements into those powers, and your enhancements were the only way they improved. They didn't have sets, so you didn't have set bonuses. So these things we have in here, um, all these set bonuses that we have, those didn't exist when I started playing the game. And so I'm much more used to just building for the enhancements, and then the set bonuses are bonuses, but I don't build for the set. And so the one person said, well, if you want to have a melee blaster with resistance, you have to build for the set bonus because it's not built into your powers. And I thought, well, that's true, but if I was going to have a melee energy based kind of character, why would I make a melee blaster? I mean, I guess you can, and maybe you have a concept for it, but I generally don't make concepts like that, so I don't need the set bonuses. And it's just not in my mindset to build for a set bonus. Anyway, let's read this and then I'll continue what I was saying. So he says, thanks, my nephew really wanted to see these news articles. Hey, I heard you're looking for something about Cray Industries. Well, you didn't hear any of this from me, but I knew some guys who disappeared while looking into them years back. So just keep your nose clean, etc. So he's just warning us that Cray is bad news, which we already knew, and now we're going to head back to our other contact. So yeah, so then we were, they were just talking about how to do builds and building for set bonuses, and I said, well, I just don't, I kind of don't do that, and the process of the conversation, the one guy was talking about, well, for my blaster to get all of the, I guess, inventions and whatever else, the attuned inventions or whatever it is that he wants to get for his blaster, it's going to cost him, I think he said 800 million influence. And I thought, that's just craziness. Why? Well, I need these things and these things to do, incarnate trials. And I said, well, that, guess that's part of the difference. I like to do story arcs, but I generally don't do task forces, and I generally don't do trials. I mean, I've done each of the task forces during live, like the Positron and Synapse and the Terravolta trial and stuff. I've done each one once, maybe twice. And then having done it, like, unless my supergroup was like, hey, we need a tank for this thing, can you help us? And I had the time to do it. Having done it once or twice, I don't see the need to just keep repeating it. And certainly not in the same character. I have no intention of doing the same trial over and over and over again on this character. And they were like, well, yeah, but if you don't do that, then you can't get all, like, the incarnate powers. I'm like, and what do you need the incarnate powers for? To do the incarnate trials. Like, but if I don't want to do the incarnate trials, then what do I need the incarnate powers for? So I think they're playing the game for the goal, some of them, for the goal of getting to level 50 and tricking out their characters so they can do these sort of end game raids, which is what the incarnate trials are. Whereas I'm playing the game for the journey, right? Not for the end game raids. And in fact, I tend not to like the trials and the task forces. They're very tense. They're like, that's the game on hardcore mode. And I don't want to play it on hardcore mode. I just don't. That to me is not fun. So I do want to point out, if you're watching this and using it as a tutorial, I am not going to teach you how to play this game on hardcore mode. I really don't have any interest in playing it that way. I play it for the story arcs, which is why I have all of this, right? The person sitting in the mission door being power leveled isn't going to have any of these. Now, you don't have to have them, but I want them because I like the story arcs. So anyway, he traced these IP addresses and the hyperlinks. It was pretty tough to do. They use an archaic addressing system that has fallen out of use, but I think I know why. They all link to a former Cray facility in Cray's Folly. The place was destroyed in the Richti invasion and then abandoned, so this might be a dead end. Sorry about that, but you might want to double check anyway. So now we're going to go to Cray's Folly, which we need to go to Bricktown to do because it's off of Bricktown. And I'm going to put on Stealth because Cray's Folly is a hazard zone and we want to decrease the aggro so we don't get jumped by, large groups of very high level cons. Now, it's probably not too bad right now because we do have a full tray of inspirations, mostly good ones, and our character's 35th level, so the highest level things in that zone I think are level 39. So they're max +4 to us, and that means that most of them are going to be below that. They're going to be orange or below, and we know that we can take out orange Cray and orange Nemesis. But in any case, we have to go down here to Cray's Folly. and then we'll head into uh, the hazard zone, and hopefully it won't be one of these mission doors that's all the way across the zone from us. So yeah, that's why I said to them, that yes, you guys are playing on a whole other level, and they were saying, well, that's fun for us, and I said, look, I'm not criticizing anybody, right? I don't, play the way you enjoy. Um, what I didn't say to them is what annoys me isn't people who play that way, but people who then declare that the way I play is wrong somehow, right? That people who would say, for example, that if I dared to not do enhancements and just do SOs with my character all the way to 50, that somehow I was doing it wrong and they don't want to play with me. And that kind of thing, that is just very elitist to me, and also just completely incorrect. The game can be played that way, and it's fine. And as you've seen, 35 levels in, and I've only had one death with this character, and the death was a careless mistake. It wasn't because I wasn't able to handle the challenge, right? Because as soon as I died and went back into the mission, realizing that I'd been exemplar down, which I was too stupid to realize before that, I was able to just go in and completely own the guy that had beaten me, right? So, so yeah, it is definitely not necessary to play for sets. And then another thing really interesting happened when I was so this lab was destroyed during the Rigby invasion, which is part of what damaged Cray's Folly. But anyway, one of the other things that came up as we were talking is, so the one person that there are these third-party builder software. I don't use them, where you like figure out how to build your character. I don't use them because my main character is a stalker, dual blades willpower stalker, a super strength invulnerability super strength tanker, and this one. I've played these kinds of characters before, stalker, tanker, and reflex scrapper till into the 40s or 50s for the most part. The stalker got to high level 30s. I know how to do these characters, so I don't bother with the build software. I don't need build software to tell me how to build my martial arts reflex scrapper. I feel like I've done a perfectly fine job for my desired playstyle, and but so they were talking about this third-party build software. It's called Pines or something, and so the one person had he was playing I think a street justice scrapper or brute, and he asked this one person who's really good at, I guess, really good at doing builds for scrappers and stalkers and stuff. By the way, the same person who told me don't bother to play a stalker, play a scrapper because they're better in every way, which is simply not true, but that's her opinion, that so he asked her for help because she's good at figuring out the numbers, right, and min-maxing. And so I don't have pines or mids or whatever it's called, so I couldn't see what they were doing. But he posted the build, and then she posted a response. Here's how I would build it, right? And he was like, "Oh man, this is awesome." And one of the other players who's new to the game, right, his main character I think is level 25, 27, 30, and that's the highest he's ever been, right? So his character's never been he's never played a character of that level, above that level, because his current character is that level, and it's his highest character. And so, and I don't know which way to go here, so we're just going to take a guess. And so he said, "Is that build what you have all along, or what you have after you get to 50?" And she was like, "Oh no, that's level 45 plus. You wouldn't do any of this until then." Well, first of all, how is a new player going to get to 45 if you don't tell them how to slot the lower levels, right? If they need help with that. And second of all, that means that build requires all kinds of high-level set enhancements and stuff like that. And so, so I was thinking about that fact combined with the guy saying, "Oh, I power leveled my wife at the mission door," and I thought, there are players. Oh, look at this boss. This is a +2 boss. Is there anybody else in this room? Just these guys. We're gonna pull them out because I don't want to get caught. So, and I'll talk about what they said about the build. Again, I didn't really look at it. I'll talk about what they said about the build, but I thought, I can't imagine how many players, right, who may be new to the game or rusty at the game like I was when I started, right, who are in such a rush to get to level 50, gonna need luck here, who are in such a rush to get to level 50 that they, jeez, look at this. They're in such a rush to get to level 50 that they don't really spend much time playing their character until they get to 50. So now imagine this person, right, who is power leveled by her boyfriend or husband or whatever to level 50, doesn't actually play and just sits at the mission door, right, and then gets this build from the build. Oh, this stupid jerk! I hate this guy. Yeah. So what he's doing is he's put on either Elude or Unstoppable or something, and then like you literally can't do anything to him until it wears off. So we're just going to wait him out. There's no point to attacking him because you cannot hit him. And I think you'll see 8% chance to hit. Right? Let's see, is it worn off yet? No. Okay, so we're just going to make him chase us. There's no point to standing there taking damage if you literally cannot hit. And so you have to wait for him to crash. I think what happens is when he crashes, and I'll talk about this in a minute, the endurance goes all the way down. So, so imagine now you're with a player who is 50th level by virtue of being power leveled at the mission door, right? And they've gone into Pines with this person, and the person has made them a super awesome, by the numbers, super awesome build. My question is, you going to want to play with them? I probably don't. Not because I object to using mids or being power leveled by themselves, but because, let's see if I can get him. Can I hit him yet? But because somebody who's been power leveled like that, did they even know their character? You know what I'm saying? Like, you, have you ever played your character? Think about, now, and I've played martial arts super reflexes to level 50 during live, right? So I am not unfamiliar with these powers, right? They did change Cobra Strike a little bit, and I think they changed Crippling Axe Kick a little bit, which I don't even have. But I am not unfamiliar with this character type. I am not unfamiliar with these powers. And I was still rusty, and I still had to practice a little bit and make sure I was all set with my rotations. And so, I mean, to play a character well, you've got to know your attack rotations. You've got to know which powers you need to call upon when. For instance, I know this is a utility power, Cobra Strike, not a damage power. I decided that as I saw how it played. And this I've always known, the Dragon's Tail, which is an AoE, is a utility power. I decided that when I was playing back in live. I've had a lot of practice with these powers. I know exactly what to do in each situation. I still screw up sometimes, of course, because I'm human, I make mistakes, and some things, little things have changed since I played this game in live. But can you imagine somebody who's just with a level 50 character they've never played, and now they've got all their overpowers slotted, and that by the numbers they should be awesome, but do they know what attack cycle to use? Which powers to attack first with? Which powers to attack second with? What's the timing? When do you click what? When do you click build up? When do you click focus chi? What weaknesses does this character have? How do you counteract these weaknesses, right? Who do you attack first? They haven't done any of that. Right? Now, if it's somebody who played in live for 5 years and they just want a power level because they don't feel like grinding, that's one thing. But if you're talking about an actual new player, someone inexperienced with their character, whether it's because they've never played the AT or the power set before, or whether it's because they've never played City of Heroes before, there's a learning curve to each character, to each power set, to each archetype. And if you just sort of ignore that and go, I'm going to get to level 50 and then use a mids or a pines build that somebody else who really knows how to play the game designed for me, well, there's no guarantee you're going to do very well with that build. Because after all, you've got to get used to every single character. And do you want to try to get used to it at level 50 when you're fighting purple +4s in a large mission with a group? I don't. I want to know my character backwards and forwards so that when I do get into a group, I know what I'm doing. When I talk about like how much DPS you do, much of that isn't based on your build. Much of that is based on efficiently using your powers in the most effective way. For instance, how do you know which inspirations to carry? Right? Which ones you carry depend on what your character is like and what your needs are. As you'll see when I post my tanker videos, I carry more reds with her. Why? Because she's a tanker, she doesn't do a lot of damage, and I don't have build-up with her yet because that doesn't come till much later on a tanker, and so, which is Focus Chi, it's called Rage on Super Strength. Because I don't have that, my only option to increase my defense is to carry a column of reds. I don't bother with reds with this character because with Focus Chi and everything else, I don't need it. Right? And so but I carry accuracies, right? And I know, for instance, when I fight the Circle of Thorns, I need more accuracies because they debuff me. I know, for example, if I'm fighting a boss, I should probably down a luck, right? Just to make sure they don't get me because I don't have a heal power. I know I want to carry more lucks than more heal inspirations. Now, I knew that when I started this character because that's what I did in live, and it worked very well for me. But if I had never played City of Heroes before, how would I know that? I would have to determine that by trial and error. Do you get trial and error by sitting at the mission door being power leveled and then using somebody else's build in mids or pine? No. And so I think you get a lot of these very cookie cutter builds, right, from players who designed by players who are really good at the numbers and really familiar with the game, and who could maybe take almost any character and in an hour or so learn it, and you then give those builds to a new player, to somebody who hasn't played in years, to somebody who maybe never played a scrapper or never played a tanker or whatever, and you think they're going to be able to hold aggro and do what they're supposed to do, it's never going to work because they're not familiar with their AT, they're not familiar with their power set, they're not familiar with the game. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a mistake to try to get new players to play the way veteran players do. And if you're a new player, again, I encourage you to just play the game the first time through. Go through, do your story arcs, use single origin enhancements, generic enhancements to learn the invention system. Don't worry about going into mids and min-maxing your character. I mean, this one person, they're always trying to get every single character to the resistance and defense caps. And I would not be surprised if she's able to get a blaster to have better defense than my scrapper, right? With sets and stuff. But they'll have that better defense than my scrapper at level 50 plus when they've done a bunch of incarnate trials. They're not going to have better defense than my scrapper at level 39. They're not going to have better defense than my scrapper at level 27, right? Just at level 50 when they're doing after they've done some incarnate trials and gotten the incarnate rewards, right? So and there's another boss. Okay, that's a red boss. It'll be a little easier. Alright, I think we're actually going to take a damage here because I want to get that Vigilant out but not use Focus Chi on her. And see, this is what I'm saying. Okay, so I have a tactic for fighting this guy, which involves making sure I had Focus Chi on him to hit him really hard, really fast, so he can't turn on that buff. There it is, see? And I took him out, or her out. Is it a girl or a guy? Him. I took him out before he put on Unstoppable or whatever that is. Right? So he wasn't able to trigger it. So that comes from experience. Are you going to know that from reading a Pines build? Nope. So it's fine to use the build to help you as you develop your character, But this idea of like just powering to level 50 without playing any of the content, without getting any experience with your character, and then doing somebody else's build that knows the game just so that you can, and then thinking you're going to be like Uber, it doesn't work that way. And so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want a team with somebody who just put their build into an external thing, found out the best build, and then basically started at level 50. How are you going to master all of the powers you need to master in the right way if you've never used them before? Right? I have how many hours? This is like the 140th or something episode. Each episode's like 40 minutes. So I've got like 75 hours of practice with this character, not counting the hundreds of hours I put. And there's another boss. Not counting the hundreds of hours I put into... So let's taunt this guy. Taunt. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay, because there's a guy on the uppermost level, and he saw me. So now we're going to get the boss to come, probably. Anyway, practice makes perfect. And I think getting all of your powers at once and being level 50 and thinking, oh, well, that means I'm going to be good at it. Not necessarily, guys. You need to practice your craft as a player. And some of this comes from experience, right? Knowing how to do a pull, which a lot of people surprisingly do not. Knowing who to target to do a pull, right? You don't target the boss, you target the minion when the boss isn't looking. And so now I took out the spawn above by accident, right? And when I taunted the one guy, everybody came. I took out the spawn up at the top. I'm trying to get the boss alone so he doesn't have help. Right, now we're going to taunt him, and we're going to pull him around. We're going to lead him out so that he has to come to me. And now focus chi, right? And we are going to pound the crap out of this guy. We're going to use our mezzes as much as possible. Try to stun. And again, knockback fast. We want to do knockback as fast as possible. Damage as fast as possible so he doesn't turn on that unstoppable or whatever it is. Come on, that's it. You see? He didn't turn it on, so we got him. Right? But again, how did I know to do that? From experience. Right? Is somebody who's just been power leveled to 50 going to know to do that? My guess is probably not. Alright, so there's a great cryo tank up there. He's probably going to aggro, so I'm going to go ahead and taunt these guys and pull them down. Right? So there's a lot of tactics that goes into this. If you want to beat guys that are higher level than you, you can't just dive in. Now, they might say, well, if you get all the incarnate powers, you can just dive in because everything's super easy. But my response to that would be, yeah, but I don't want it to be super easy. I like the fact that I have to actually pull these guys. And this is one of the reasons I have not set it on +2. Because the bosses would be absolutely brutal. On +2, they could be +3 bosses. And that would be really tough. Especially since these guys turn on unstoppable like that, as you saw, and then you literally cannot hit them. I think it's unstoppable. I can't remember which power it is. It's one of them. Yeah, so the other thing is these crash powers. What I call the crash powers. So the crash powers, these are powers that are really, really good. Usually defensive powers at the end of a set. For us, it's elude. These powers are really good, except they're click powers, right? They don't cost much endurance to execute. But when they finish, your endurance crashes down to like 10% or 5%, and then it sits there for like 10 seconds and you can't recover. So these powers you have to be careful about using, because if you're not, right, if the endurance crashes all the way down, what's going to happen? My 3 toggles all turn off. And combat jumping, and then I'm helpless, right? There are ways to handle that crash. right? But this build that the really good player who does all the cool builds produced, it didn't include that power, right? And she said, well, the reason is because of the endurance crash. That's basically suicide. And I said, no, it's not. Well, yeah, it is, because the endurance crashes, and then you can't, um, you like all your toggles turn off. I said, well, actually, that's not necessarily true. There are ways to handle that, and I'm gonna have to. I can't really describe them because I don't have it, and I'm gonna have to play with it and see what worked. I remember I was able to make it work, but I don't remember how. Right? I'm gonna admit that, guys. I don't remember how. But I do remember I used it to great effect against archvillains, and I told her it saved my life repeatedly against archvillains in live. She just didn't answer me, right? Because she doesn't like being wrong. And she especially seems to not like it when I keep mentioning live. This person, I believe, started playing with Leandro's group and has never seen it when it was under live development, and so doesn't know anything about what the game played like years ago with SOs and without all these sets and without the incarnate trials and all the other crap that got added even after the development was over when Leandro took over. She doesn't know what it's like to play in that more bare bones version of the game, and but I do, and I know for a fact that I was able to use elude to survive fighting villains, arch villains, and so I'm absolutely going to take it, and I'm absolutely going to use it, and it is certainly possible to survive using it, and not only that, but it can tip the scales. It's a panic power, and it can tip the scales when you're fighting somebody who is so powerful that they're hitting you even through your defenses, right? And so you, against an arch villain or something like that. And so, like, this person is giving advice to everybody that's got a crash power like that, and that would be powers like Unstoppable, Elude. I guess there's one in the shield secondary, because that's what this person was using, was shield defense. Elude in the Scrapper, and I think Ninjutsu has something very similar. My guess is her advice to all of them is just don't even take that power. And my guess is she'd say, well, I can get you to the resistance cap or the dodge cap without it. Yeah, at level 50 with incarnate abilities, right? But at level 38, I'm going to get Elude, and I'm going to become unhittable by arch villains. So, that's 12 levels of really worthwhile power that maybe at level 50 wouldn't be as useful, but it's going to be very useful on the way up. So, I don't know. That's what I was saying. I play a very different way. Some of these guys play to get their character to level 50. They intend to respec their character once they get to level 50. The plan is get there and then change it, right? And knock these guys down. That's their plan, is get to level 50 and then build the character the way I intend to play it for the future, right? Getting to 50 is just a chore. I don't do that. I'm not planning to respec this character. I'm planning to play this character exactly as I've been playing her all along, just with added powers as I level, right? I didn't take powers I was intending to get rid of at level 50. I'm keeping all these powers, and they've all been useful. I guarantee you, nearly any build that a so-called knowledgeable Scrapper player would create would not include Warrior's Challenge. How many times did I use Warrior's Challenge in this mission alone? It's quite useful if you use it right. Also, you'd say, well, you could throw the little throwing dagger thingy at them. I don't know if we even have it anymore, because, yeah, the throwing knives. First of all, it doesn't generate as much aggro as Taunt. Second of all, it doesn't recycle as fast. This thing recycles very quickly, right? It recycles in 3 seconds. I don't think this power recharges anywhere near that fast. Let's look. 4 seconds, right? So that means we can use it more often, and it's really useful to generate aggro when I'm trying to protect somebody. As you've seen, when there's an NPC, what am I doing? I'm attacking this guy, taunting this guy, attacking this guy, taunting that guy, taunting this guy, attacking this guy, taunt that guy, attack that guy, taunt this guy, attack this guy. And it keeps all of the NPCs, the enemies, focused on me so they don't attack the target I'm trying to protect. right? So it's a very useful power. But my thing is, I don't think these guys care if they're protecting a target, right? Because you'd have to care about your story arcs in order to want to use taunt to protect an NPC, right? And they're not going to try to protect other players because they're going to say, well, the tanker will do that. That's not my job as a scrapper. And, you know, I got to tell you, I've been in, I just get hit by a sniper. I've been in a lot of cases where there were no tankers on the team, and I had to basically tank for the team. And you know what helped me tank? Taunt, elude, and luck. Right? I would alternate between elude, which is like swallowing 3 lucks at once and then lasts for 2 minutes or something. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get the power. But I used to alternate between elude and luck and taunt, and I could tank. Like, actually main tank for high-level teams in the 40s when there wasn't a tanker. How many general scrappers, not a scrapper that's got a build for tanking, but just generally built scrappers that are built primarily for DPS, can also main tank for their team? You know, it depends on how you build and what you do, but that's why the way I build is not optimal for just sort of pure DPS or pure tanking. It's optimal for sort of multi-purpose. It's not optimal, let's say. It's a multi-purpose build that's designed to accomplish many different things, whatever needs to be accomplished in the missions I'm doing. Anyway, that's my rant, guys. We finished our mission. Our clue, if we look at this, was Project Revenant Hero. Oh, so Cray cloning project. Starting with a lead from the doctor, you investigated the Cray facility where a file was stored that she could not access. We took the file to a person we knew could hack it, and Citadel did that, and then we found out that the Project Lock was a code name for a project where DNA is put into a template body to effectively clone the person. So, let's see what our contact says. And he says, I can't believe this. Cray is taking dead heroes' DNA and making hero clones out of them. Not only that, but they are extracting the memories and knowledge from these heroes and putting them in those copies. I knew there was more to the Paragon protectors than Cray was letting on, but all this is beyond what anyone had ever imagined. These files aren't enough, though. This won't hold up in court on its own. We need some evidence. And so the investigation, he says, into the log file and the Revenant Hero project is only heating up. I have to wonder if the doctor knew this was going to happen when she started all of this. I'm having trouble proceeding because Cray is concentrating on their security, especially in Brickstown. I was thinking, though, that if you could hit the streets and start fighting with the Cray's minions, it might be enough of a distraction. So I'm going to have to defeat 20 Cray, and probably more than 20 Cray. I'm not going to make you guys watch this. I'll wander around Brickstown and defeat Cray, and I'll bring you back when we have another actual door mission. I hope you didn't mind my rants, and I'll be back in another episode.